These two teams have faced off before. We saw this addition last year, Des, but let's start with the offense of Ole Miss. Look, they can put up some points. I mean, I think there were 345 points scored in this game last year. What problems might they pose for Alabama's defense?
Well, I tell you what, Wendy, coming into the 2021 season, everyone that I spoke with that had anything to do with Alabama's program talked about how great this defense was. This is probably one of the best defenses Nick Saban has ever had. And I was like, okay, I was buying into it. But then the Florida game, I started to notice some chinks in the armor. Now, there's one thing you know about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is definitely an offensive genius. If there are any weaknesses in your defense, he's going to find those weaknesses and exploit them. So you know they're going to, put up a lot of points, gain a lot of yards with Matt Corral at the quarterback position. I expect Nick Saban's defense to try to make sure that they can blitz Matt Corral, try to put some pressure on him right there. He's like a dual-threat quarterback. Now, he can run, but he loves to throw the ball all over the field. He has a bunch of weapons, and that's what he's going to try to do. Stretch the field, not only defend the field vertically, but defend the field horizontally too. So with that said, I think that, I tell you what, this offense that they got is explosive, exciting, and they're going to try to attack that defense on all fronts, Wendy.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I suspect they'll strike early and often. But, Des, let me ask you on the flip side, because what good for one, good for the other. Can Ole Miss, can Alabama, can Ole Miss's defense pose any kind of real threat to Alabama?
I tell you what, that's going to be the key to this victory for either team is going to be how the defense plays. And I tell you what, if Ole Miss is going to pull off this upset, it's going to start with their defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin, and that defense. Now, they run this funky, 3-2-6 configuration of a defense, which means they have 6 defensive backs or hybrids back there. When you do that, it means that you can put different players in different positions and confuse the quarterback. Meaning you may have a cornerback who lines up as a safety, but then he comes down in the box, and you may have 7 or 8 in the box. Back end, it can give Bryce Young, Alabama's young quarterback, some issues early on. Pre-snap read, post-snap read may not be the same thing. And when you're able to do that to a young quarterback, Wendy, what it does is it causes hesitation. He's starting to think. He's starting to second-guess himself. And at that point, that's when the rush gets to him. So DJ Durkin and they're going to come with that 3-2-6 defensive scheme and try to confuse young Bryce Young.
Well, young being the pivotal word there, and you know as well as I do, when you start doubting yourself, wonder what, you've got trouble, and it can happen in a hurry. I mentioned this before. If you don't believe me, just take a look. I wasn't kidding. Last year's matchup, it was also Lane Kiffin facing his former employee and perhaps mentor, Ole Miss and Alabama. And, it was nothing but offense. The highest scoring game in the series. It ends with Alabama winning 63-48. Almost 1,400 total yards of offense, 111 combined points. That was the first meeting, of course, between Kiffin and Saban. So we take a look at What's Your Beef, brought to you by Old Trapper. This is incredible, really, because you'd think there'd be a trip up somewhere along the line. Nick Saban, an outstanding 23-0 when facing former Alabama assistants. Reminder that Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, the offensive coordinator for the Tide under Saban for 2 years, 2014 to 2016. We went through this last year, and it really, I don't know if it was such a thing. This year, maybe. Is this the time, Des, or is this, maybe I should just say, is this the season that we see a little bit of a blemish on Nick Saban's record against his former assistants?
I tell you what, we've seen some strange things thus far this season, like 25 ranked AP teams have lost already. The most have lost since the 1930s. So I would not put that past Nick Saban to lose a game. And I tell you what, the thing about this Ole Miss team that really has me excited about this game is that I heard their safety, Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones said that we have changed the culture here at Ole Miss. He said there's more like a brotherhood. We play for one another, and it shows on the field. He said defensively, we come with a whole completely different attitude. Wendi, last year, if Ole Miss could have gotten a couple stops, then they could have won that ball game. So now you're looking at a defense that's playing much better now. They have much more confidence. They understand the scheme. All the players know where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. If they can get a couple of stops, this is going to be a really, really interesting matchup in Tuscaloosa. So this just might be the time where the grasshopper snatches the pebble from the teacher's hand.
Mercury's in retrograde, Des. You know what that means? All kind of crazy stuff happens, all right? And in this case, it might mean Ole Miss plays a little defense like last year. We shall see.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.